Welcome to the Tiny Box Dialogues. This series was created to share the knowledge of our experts using real examples from real people with real stories. Welcome. Today's exciting topic is the B2B metaverse. Now, whether you're familiar with this concept prior to this session, you would be well informed after this session because we have two inspirational experts joining us today, Hanan Mopaz and Carl Hecht. Now, Hanan, we'll start with you. Hanan is an experienced CEO with a demonstrated history of working in semiconductor and internet industry. Now, she most recently started Must, which is a dedicated platform for the integration of hybrid in-person and digital events, including the promotion of a B2B expo and a B2B matchmaking platform. You definitely aim high, Hanan. Why don't you share a few words about how you got here?
Yeah. You know, you mentioned that I'm coming from hardware, from the semiconductor industry, but I had this chance, you know, to see the internet, you know, booming, growing, and see the changes. I mean, I see them in my career when we went through internet, we used internet, and then how to the social media. And also as a mom, when I saw my children, you know, growing differently with gaming, of course, as any mom, it was very difficult to accept this. But by going deeper and learning from them, we think it is really a big change. It's, through this gaming is not only, you know, waste time, it's more than that. You can learn, you have a lot of you know, science inside, technical projects, learning. Means it's a great tool for, if we use it in the good way, it's a great tool to make children, you know, learn more and also business to grow.
I love that you say that about children, because that's always the challenge for my friends who come from different cultures, is that they all both have to learn each other's languages because they don't want the child to speak a language that they don't understand. And I feel like the metaverse and the internet is kind of like that, right? It's a whole other language.
Exactly.
Carl, I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. I'll start by giving a quick background. So Carl is a trusted computer vision expert with applied research and real-world project insights. He provides a holistic view for customers and partners who need to develop support and, crucially, buy-in for strategic and innovative computer vision implementations that also deliver tangible results, so not just theory. Carl, please share a little bit of your journey and how you got here.
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Raj. I've been busy on the internet for over a dozen years now, and a lot of that has been focused on, I guess, bleeding edge technologies. So way back 10 years or so ago with the first iterations of AR, and more recently, half a dozen years ago with VR. And I really see the metaverse and the interaction that extended reality is bringing is just another extension of that, the ongoing process of making interaction with software and computers more natural, more immersive, and richer.
Fantastic. And I'm super excited to have you both here because we did a think tank a couple of years ago where we got some really incredible insights into matchmaking and the possibility of using these technologies. So fantastic to have you both. Now, let's face it, there's some confusion around this concept, especially if you're not a gamer, right? So gamers have been operating in metaverse for a really long time, but for the uninitiated, they might ask, what is a metaverse? And I looked up a definition, and I'd love you guys to challenge me. So the metaverse in terms of the computer and the internet and a Google search is a network of 3D virtual worlds focused on social connection, very crucial in the last 2 years. In futurism and science fiction, it's often described as a hypothetical iteration of an internet as a single universal virtual world. Of course, using virtual and augmented reality headsets, right? Like gamers do. Now, the first time I was introduced to metaverses was 2006 when a professor in my BCom talked about Second Life. Now, I got that you could create an avatar and it was a virtual world, but I couldn't understand the impact it would have in real economic terms. Please tell us, what are your thoughts on where the metaverse was, is, and why it's so crucial?
Yeah, I think your definition about the 3D social media, let's say, network is a good definition. This is exactly. But this is also related to interaction, means what is very important to understand that the game is to interact in this metaverse. It's not just, you know, going through it. It's finding how to interact like in gaming, means gamers are fighting or are giving some challenges. Here we will have also to create the interaction and to make, to make it useful for people to show new products, to explore new opportunities, and also to matchmake means to find new opportunities and new relationships and new partnerships for their business. This is how the difference between 2006 metaverse means the first time that you see the metaverse, and now that technology has developed since, and also the social media really changed a lot of things in our behavior and our way to interact and take decisions.
Yeah, and I think this is also a gap in a lot of social media. People think it's just about putting posts out there or content out there, but like you say, it's about the interaction even in that 2D world. And I love that Thomas has already written here, Second Life is 2D. Metaverse is much richer with interactions that we can take the most from. Carl, what's your perspective on this? What's been your journey here?
Thanks, Raj. I think I'll just extend your definition to include the fact that it needs to be open and interoperable. You need to be able to have various businesses interact with various other businesses, and all consumers need to have access to this platform. So it has to be open and it needs to be persistent. So if I'm engaging with something in some way in the metaverse, it needs to have the same state when I return and want to do the same thing a day or a week or a month or a year later. Likewise, that holds for purchases. If I'm purchasing something in the metaverse, then that needs to retain its ownership when I return. So there's a sense of state, there's a sense of persistence, and there's also, as Hanan rightly pointed out, the interaction. So you're not just a passive consumer, you need to be present, an embodied physical person there interacting with other people and objects in the metaverse. So that would be my 2 cents, which was more like 10 cents added.
No, I love it. Actually, we're going to come to the customer experience part later, because I think that is a very important component of it, is what are our expectations when we enter something like a metaverse. I do want to address the one question I got when I started promoting you guys, which was, what the heck is about the Facebook renaming? What impact does that have? Does it create confusion about the metaverse? So let's just get that right off the table. Hanan, what do you think? What has Facebook done or not done by creating this attention on it?
I think they are doing a great job, honestly. I think not only the first one, maybe too much media, and when it's too much media, it's aggressive and people can ask a question. If you look at their last press release, they started to feature, to say, unveil some features like translation. Means in the metaverse, you can speak the language that you wanna, and if I am with you in the metaverse, you will understand what I'm saying, even if I'm speaking a language that you don't know the automatic translation. And look, this has changed a lot of things. This is give people, the opportunity to understand deeply and to interact easily and not going through different languages or some languages barrier. This is one of the features that they reveal it, and I think they are doing a great job in this area.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, as an English-speaking person living in Germany, I can definitely say that the translation helps in every platform.
Exactly.
Even as I continue to learn.
Yeah.
Carl, you had some interesting thoughts around the attention that Facebook has brought to the metaverse.
Yeah, I think it's more than just attention. I think it's the volume of money that they're throwing at their headsets, because really for this to take off in 2 years instead of 20 years, there really needs to be a form factor that is comfortable and easy to use and easy to set up. That certainly wasn't the case 5 years ago with the base stations with HTC Vive, which I'm sure some people can remember from the early days of VR. But now with the Oculus and the comfort and the ease of setup, then I think Facebook have done a huge service in really pushing this forward.
Yeah, Hanan, did you want to add to that, or?
No, I fully agree with him.
I love that he's the one wearing the headset, and then he mentions the headsets, right? Because clearly I need to keep up with this, right? We had a quick comment from Jean-Marc, who says local enclosed metaverse can also exist, an example of reviewing the definition and requirements of new airplanes. And I just want to share that because people who are on Spotify don't get to see the text. So I just want to make sure we mention some of the insightful things we're getting from our audience. Now, regarding the why, I like to format these discussions around the what is it, why does it matter, and then how can the audience get involved. So when we're talking about why it matters in the future of customer experience, which you've already touched on there, Carl, some metaverse iterations involve integration of virtual and physical spaces and virtual economies. often including a significant interest in advancing VR technology. So why is the metaverse or hybrid concept so important to customer experience? You did talk about consistency. So why don't we start with you, Carl, on that one?
Okay, well, I mean, where does customer experience start? It starts with the user experience design. And so you can take a step back and you think, okay, when you're designing an interface for a product, whether it's a screen or a set of buttons, or even the shapes of the handles or the grips, all of that improvement or optimization of the user interface can happen in a metaverse context as well. So when you're enabling your designers and your product reviewers to be able to touch and see and manipulate the product in a 3D virtual space, then that's obviously the first step before production to getting a product out there, which is going to give an improved customer experience. So that's where I'd really start from.
Yeah.
Okay.
I fully I agree with that. This is a key, for the future, and this is maybe will help, to save money and to save energy and to save a lot of things. In addition, I think in terms of interactivity, this will help any company, whatever startup, to people an idea or a big group, to operate internationally, globally. Okay, this will help everybody, to operate together globally. Means you don't need to travel a lot. You have to limit your travel to what you think is really worth to do. You can, reach anybody in the world in your business by matchmaking. If you need any technology or you need some HR, requirement, any talent, you can just matchmake, find them and interact with them. This will simplify a lot the business and will open this business to everybody to operate globally.
Do you think that's propelled forward because of the last couple of years and the lack of travel, or because why now? Why has it moved from a metaverse solely for gamers to the mainstream? Is it a combination of all the other customer experience, technology that's out there? Why now? Why is it so important now that metaverse is getting so much attention?
Yeah, I guess neither Dasu, and Carl team or us, we started all before this COVID, I think the COVID helped accelerated the movement to the digitalization, but this is part of the plans anyway. It may happen in 5 years, in 10 years. I think now it will happen quicker just because we know that with this COVID situation, we push it people, to work more from home and to use more digital tools. But anyway, I think this is, as Carl, by the way, said when he presented himself, this is the natural path, or the continuity with what we are doing right now.
Yeah, and with regard to home office, clearly we're not going to go back to the business as usual 3 years ago where everybody was sitting in an open plan office with 100 colleagues. That's not necessary when you can interact with colleagues, whether it's a video conference or some other shared working environment. And that's only going to be easier to do and a richer, more collaborative experience when you do have that 3D component as well. So if your work involves anything physical, anything that exists in the real world, then the benefits are obvious. If you're designing a piece of machinery and you can stand from all sides of it and see all aspects, that's a huge help, but also more theoretical pursuits. So if you've got a mathematical problem to solve, it can be hugely helpful and rich to be able to visualize those types of interactions between elements in a mathematical equation, or, for example, a simple example, the planet circling around the sun, some kind of physics problem. If you can visualize that in a 3D space, it's much easier to think about it and to work towards solving a problem.
I love that. I love that, because we're talking about healthcare and AI next week, and that's exactly the kind of topic that will become relevant. Is that, the first time I saw digital twins with us at the RSNA in Chicago, and it blew my mind. It's not yet quite a reality, but it's just this concept that we could test and learn on a virtual platform before we even implement medical surgeries, etc.
Just to jump in there, sorry to interrupt you, Raj, but it actually is a reality now. So Yale did a survey, a study recently, and I think surgeons were performing 6 times less mistakes in their operations
fantastic.
when they had practiced those operations in the virtual VR space already. There's also similar stats from people who are trained with motorcycle riding in a virtual environment to be able to be more aware of potential accidents or risky behaviors. So there's huge benefits that are already occurring in healthcare and road safety from simulating environments in the VR space.
That's a fantastic statistic, and I'm definitely bringing that up next week with the GA healthcare expert. Fantastic. Just a couple of notes here. We have, first of all, Carl, you've been suggested that you should be wearing a VR headset to talk about the metaverse, but we won't get into that. We have some feedback that the Musk platform is a great user experience. But I wanted to just touch on something that was said in the comments about metaverse will help us move to a greener world. I know that, Carl, you had spoken about how the 5G was needing to be deployed for the metaverse to be able to function. What do you think of this greener concept or the technology that's now available, giving us more access to the metaverse concept?
Yeah, that's a very good question that I'm probably not qualified to answer, because I think a lot of the interest in the metaverse comes from companies who generally get a large portion of their revenue from selling product, and the more product that is sold, obviously the more
it's not so green.
But if I take a positive spin on that, then you have obviously the opportunity with using the metaverse as an environment to perfect the products. You're going to get rid of a lot of the resource use and wastage in doing endless versions of prototypes. You're going to remove all the risk of bringing products to market that nobody buys or wants, which is a huge source of waste. And I think probably most importantly, you can really enable the extension of the life of products if you can make it easier and more cost effective to repair what's in production already. So if my washing machine breaks, it's simply not economically viable to get an engineer here to fix it. It's just, I should just buy a new washing machine, unfortunately. However, I have some tools and I can do a lot of things myself. And if I was able to put on a headset and get an AR walkthrough of, okay, which part to replace, then I'm certain that many consumers could do that themselves as well.
If you allow me just to add that, anyway, in fact, it's a greener, digital is a greener. And if you look at the expo, for example, if you attend an expo or you follow it virtually, if you are virtually, you have 1% carbon footprint from the 100% that somebody will travel, will go all this west for this. I mean, also we need to tell it. I mean, I know that maybe people are not happy. I hope that this expo will continue, but we need to moderate this in the future. I mean, we cannot just build a complete village with wood and steel and just for 3 days and then destroy everything. And this is numbers. These numbers are fact. I mean, nobody can, argue against these numbers.
And it's also a question of fairness as well. So a lot of people don't have the financial resources to physically travel to these types of events. And that translates to things like learning opportunities and access to university courses, etc. So a lot of that is already online, but it's only going to be more potent and more valuable and richer when it's presented in a 3D format as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what they're jumping on. Is the exhibition is a very interesting use case because they can be done online now. And I love your concept of, we don't have to build these entire cities in some cases for the expos. I was recently at the World Expo in Dubai, and it's just basically it's like a mini city that's been built on the edge of the desert. And you're thinking, how is this sustainable? And of course, they have the sustainability pavilion as well, right, with the solar panels. And you're like, but the whole concept doesn't need to be, so it was a really interesting conflict to be there, because you're like, it's exciting to see the countries, but on the other hand, this could have been done virtually, right? So I love that everything is here. But we do want to talk about the expo, Hanan, because you do talk about hybrid in person, and I know we've spoken about it before, Carl, and Tom Ackland spearheaded the think tank with that exact concept of how can we utilize 3D to make it more interactive. But I do want to just touch on, before we jump to that, how can the audience become technology enablers in their own organizations? Because that was a core component of what we wanted to discuss. So is there any first steps that you would suggest to the audience?
Oh, I think they need, to first to plan this part of business development, all that they have. I know that a lot of processes existing to digitalize, automate production, development. Carl, let's speak about it, but also business development, sales needs also to be part of this digitalization process. This is the first thing, is to include, this in their zero carbon or decreasing their carbon footprint. They need to include it in their plan. Then also, I'm really happy that people join us. We started this, the metaverse, we started it with Master Platform for B2B. And we are also with this MVP that we did with Must High Tech Expo. We wanted to learn, and we want also to have people feedback about what kind of interaction is the most useful for the B2B, and what we should add to this metaverse, to make it useful for everybody. I'm really inviting, people to join us and get to learn with us and to give us their feedback about it.
I love that, because we did talk very much about a core component of the in-person events is actually meeting people. But now that we've been forced to do it online, we see that we can build trust and integrity online and still make those kind of matchmaking systems work. It's just a matter of how does that look? And of course, the 3D component comes into that very deeply, right?
And the three of us are the perfect, let's say, example. We have never met each other. It's not our
true.
Yeah, and really, I trust you and I respect you. I don't, even if I have never met, I hope to meet Carl and get a beer with him in Munich. Or where he is.
You let us know. I'll set it up.
Yeah, I will come, to meet you, but just to have fun together, to know, this is, of course, I need also to meet you one day when the opportunity will come. But it's we started virtual, and really I'm happy with this connection. You helped me a lot, from the beginning on the concept. We have many ideas converging, and we are helping each other with all the respect, even if it's virtual.
I think that's so brilliant. We are the use case. I didn't even think of that. This is not our first session together, but here we are.
Yeah, it's not our session.
I agree with everything you said. I think that's very true. And I think it's important to note that this relationship or this collaboration has been enabled with these video chats that we're having now. It would have been much harder 10 years ago, only with phone calls and emails. And I certainly struggled working with global teams a decade ago to build those personal relationships. And it wasn't until I'd sat on the plane and flown over and met them in person, and we'd had a drink together and had a dinner together, that the relationship was really built. So if you can imagine, this is now possible with video calling. It's going to be even richer when we can share a 3D space and actually interact and get a feel for, okay, what's this person really like, not just a little
I mean, even just from an image and video perspective, I mean, we are 2D right now, and just being able to shake a hand or create a storefront or do something within that metaverse that gives an indication of our personal brand and our company purpose, that's a very big thing that we're missing even in this. Because I've got some great comments from the audience saying, this is great, this is a great example. So thank you very much to everybody who's listening. But also I like this idea that we can enjoy more of the interactions, and the organizers can get more out of the interactions, and they can monetize them, because we did speak about this in the past, is that you're collecting data a lot more actively in these metaverses as well, right? So there is the opportunity to continually improve them.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Carl can answer.
Carl help.
Carl can help here.
I mean, that's a huge topic. Collecting more data, that's a double-edged sword. So it can be used for good and evil, if you like. So you can have amazing targeting based on not just demographics, but also preferences and behaviors. Eye tracking, you're going to easily be able to tell, okay, which types of products or even people is this person interested in, and you can take steps to influence those choices as well. And if you want to use that for good in advertising, sure, that's okay, but you can also use it to manipulate as well. So if somebody's in a virtual environment, then there's much more opportunity to, I guess, squeeze them for an emotional response, where you have access to sound and visual and scene environment as well. It's much easier to manipulate people than just throwing something on Russia Today or a YouTube channel. to influence.
Yes, that is
perception.
absolutely true. Very politically diplomatic. Thank you very much for that answer. No, really, I think that is absolutely bang on, because I was reading recently, and I'm talking to a few people, and they say, it's the thing that people forget is that we're so fast to develop the technology that we forget it can be used for unintended consequences or unintended applications. And actually, there was a discussion on LinkedIn about this as well. And actually, when I promoted this dialogue, I got a comment saying, well, why can't we just admit that we don't know what the impact's going to be in the future? And that's exactly to your point, Carl, is that we can only do the best that we can do. We can try to make it a positive experience. We can try not to manipulate the situation. However, like all technology, there are unintended consequences to everything that we do. So I think we have to be open, right?
If you look at the debate, your mom debate, or even my generation debate about internet, you will have the same stuff. When I was young, I always heard people saying, "Oh, we will never be able to solve clothes on internet. How can you buy something that you have never tested or see it?" And now 50% maybe of the business for clothes is through internet. And same thing, internet will destroy our life. I know everybody needs internet, Of course,
Ready Player One comes to mind.
Exactly.
I think we mentioned this. It's like Ready Player One, and this idea that we live our entire lives through the internet rather than or 3D.
The same.
I love that we've got a comment here saying you're still very young, Hanan, because I was going to say that. I'm like, gosh, that does make us sound old, doesn't it? Like, remember the days before email? Remember those days? But I get it.
I'm from the generation that we saw internet born. I remember very well the sound when you start internet. This is something that I remember, and I saw all this, progressing. And of course, when internet started, everybody was skeptic about it, saying that it will destroy the world. I remember very well this. And now it's not destroying the world, it's creating jobs, is creating communication, is creating more value, and is changing our life positively. But you have always the bad guys, whatever in technology or outside technology means. Even the early days of the earth, you have always the bad guys, isn't it?
I think the bigger thing there is it's not stopping. So either and this is something that I talked about actually in a TEDx, is that we have to understand it. We have to be part of the story if we want to influence where it's going to go. And by not educating ourselves and not knowing what it's about, similar to the metaverse, how can we then have an opinion on it or not be part of that journey on how it's going to progress? So I really like that idea. Thank you, Hanan. We do only have a few minutes left, so I want you guys to give some clear takeaways to our audience. Clearly, the pandemic means we are working from home. It hasn't really ceased completely. The metaverse, though, I love this idea that it can help us socialize and feel connected, because a lot of the mental health problems that came from the last couple of years were about feeling disconnected. And I guess I'd just like you guys to give a little bit of the final takeaways that you would, or aspirational messages that you'd like the audience to leave with. Either one, whoever.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last few minutes of conversation were the perfect lead-in, talking about the seismic change that the internet has brought to society. And I think the same will be true of the metaverse. I think in 2030, it'll be inconceivable for a successful business not to have a presence in the metaverse in the same way it's inconceivable now for a business not to have a presence on the internet. So I really think it will be that groundbreaking.
Yeah, you've heard it here first. Now, everybody pay attention. You heard it from Carl first. You have to be in the metaverse to be able to survive in the future. It's the same as the internet. All right. Go on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carl. I think you mentioned it, all what I want to really to say, that the technology is here. Means with 5G, we will have everything to make it happen. Be the one who will really see it positively and started, to get advantage from this new era. We saw, social media, IoT, and now metaverse. It's just the continuity in terms of technology, and it will be helpful for many, many people. Thank you, Raj, for giving us this opportunity, to not to discuss, but also to laugh and to have this, great moment, very warm moment. Thank you so much, Raj, and thank you, Carl.
Okay, I'm going to wrap this up, but thank you both so much, because clearly the metaverse and digital events can help us turn digital interaction into lively and organized digital marketplaces. enabling people to connect, network, exhibit, generate leads, celebrate, educate. There's so much possibility there. And you've given us some great insights into why this is a positive thing to take away. And I see the audience is agreeing in a lot of different ways. Metaverse is the next generation of internet is one of the comments there. Mm-hmm. But thank you both for the brilliant insights. Next week, we will talk about the emergence of health tech, how AI and digital health systems are influencing our healthcare. So a nice continuation of this subject. In the meantime, this audio will be shared on Spotify. This video will be on YouTube. And if you love our experts as much as I do, their information will be underneath the YouTube video and the Spotify, so you can follow them on LinkedIn and hear more about this great topic. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you online next week. Thanks.
Thank you, Raj. Thanks you, Carl. Thank you.